Plaintiff Paul Downs is suing his ex-wife and her new husband for the cost of hay, gas, and a loan. Paul says he had his ex-wife arrested for assaulting him with a cup of hot soup in front of their young daughter, and she has since been lying to their daughter about him. Defendants Crystal and Jeffrey Cook are countersuing because they say Paul had their steers slaughtered and kept all the meat.
Okay, Paul Downs is suing Crystal Cook, his ex-wife, and now her husband, Jeffrey Cook, for the cost of hay, gas, and a loan. And the defendants, Crystal and Jeffrey, are countersuing her ex-husband for the cost of a slaughtered steer. Okay, Paul, we'll start with you.
Yes, Your Honor. I opened a tavern in 1991. I met Crystal shortly after that. She was a convicted felon. We started to date and got married.
What are you convicted of? Crystal, what were you convicted of?
Delivery of a controlled substance.
Cocaine, Your Honor.
Thank you. Go ahead, Paul.
She couldn't bartend until we got married. And then we got married and she could bartend, so she took over a lot of the...
What'd you do, marry her so she could bartend? What's the point?
No.
Why'd you marry her?
Because I loved her.
Good answer. Okay.
One particular night, she was drunk when she picked up our daughter. When I got home, she was making soup in a 2-cup Pyrex measuring cup thing. She made soup. It was making soup in it. I went upstairs because my daughter was crying. Well, my daughter was wet, mess, still fully dressed in the crib. So I started to undress my daughter and change her clothes and that. Crystal had came up and had the Pyrex cup with her. And as I was bent over the bed changing my daughter, I turned like this to ask her, what are you trying to prove? And she hit me with the 2-cup Pyrex cup, cut my chin wide open with this hot soup in it.
Crystal, do you remember the night he was talking about?
Oh, yeah, I remember it.
What were you doing with the 2-cup Pyrex?
I had a 4-cup Pyrex measuring cup full of cream and mushroom soup that I just heated up in the microwave for me to eat, along with a bottle for our daughter. And
so
I was coming
what about
upstairs.
it ending up on
walking into the house after work and just started in on me right away, yelling at me because Lakeisha was crying. Well, I'm downstairs trying to...
Were you drinking as well?
I had drink, yeah, but drunk? No.
Okay. All right, you call the cops?
After I got back from the hospital, I contacted the police and she was arrested.
Yes.
Right.
You were arrested.
For the
were you
cut
convicted?
trim. Yes.
Of what? What was she convicted of?
Battery.
Did you go to jail?
No.
What was the sentence?
3 years probation.
That's what makes me crazy. Domestic battery, and it's probation. That's the sad commentary on these kinds of cases. But go ahead, Paul. So you clearly were a victim of the defendant, according to the criminal justice system.
Yes.
All right, let's fast forward here.
We divorced in 1997. I've tried to remain friends with them. I've done a lot of work for them to better my relationship with them and my daughter.
How old is your daughter now?
My daughter right now is 14.
Okay. All right. So why are we here today?
We're here today because they had horses that I had been taking care of, and they refused to pay for the hay or the feed that it took to take care of them. And I am tired of my ex-wife lying to my daughter about me. There is a note that the police found in my daughter's pants, written by my ex-wife, of what my daughter should be telling people about me. And if I can get a chance to find it here.
All right, take your time. All right, Crystal, Jeffrey, while he's looking for that, how many horses do you have?
We had 4 at the time.
Yeah.
4 at the time. Mm-hmm. So you agree that there was an agreement that when he went to feed his horse, what's your horse's name, Paul?
Double Z.
Double Z. When he went to feed Double Z, he would feed your 4 horses.
Sure.
Okay. And so you're saying, Paul, that at some point there was no feed or grain
Yes,
to feed their 4 horses?
They ran out of theirs, yes.
Okay. So you went and bought it. Is that what you're telling me?
No, I had hay in the same barn of my own, and
So
I
you used
fed
your
my
hay.
hay to their horses.
Okay. All right. And who are you?
I've been friends of all these people.
But you're sitting on that side.
Right.
Okay. Step up. What do you want to tell me? What's your name?
I'm Mike Piper.
Hi, Mike Piper. Why are you here today?
I, at different times, had taken Paul down with me to the feed mill on several occasions. He had bought some grain. I helped him unload hay that he had bought from a neighbor. for their for
All
their
right, so
horses.
you're here essentially to witness the fact that he purchased hay and grain and that you helped him unload that hay and grain in the area where Double Z is, where their 4 horses are.
Right.
Did you ever see him feed their 4 horses?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Sit down. What do you want to say?
I would like to say that there's no grain involved. It's just hay. He never grained our horses at all. It's too expensive for him to grain our horses. It was just hay.
So
And
why?
the whole thing is
Well, let me ask you this, Jeffrey.
We
How did
never-
you know it if you weren't there?
I was there. I was there time and about. I brought hay there. I brought hay there plenty of times. And that goes back to the steer as well. I bought tons of, Mike, you've even helped me unload feed for that steer for the 9-10 months that I raised that steer. And then he took over, helping feed it.
What I'm hearing is that there was an agreement that he would feed your horses when he went to feed Double Z.
Yeah.
Now,
He
tell me
was already
about
out
this
there.
steer. Where does the steer come
The steer
in?
comes in. We were going to let bygones be bygones.
Mm-hmm.
He took my steer in, had it slaughtered, didn't tell me nothing about the appointment, didn't tell me how I wanted the meat cut. We were going to 50-50 it. Well, he still has my steer in his freezer. I've not gotten 2 pounds
Paul,
of hamburger
forget it.
meat.
Paul, forget what you're looking for. Focus.
Okay.
Did you have his steer slaughtered?
Yes.
Yes, I took the steer in, and Crystal knew it was going in because I had to make the appointment a month ahead of time, Your Honor.
But let me see if I understand this. You're helping him feed the horses, okay? And you're saying the 4 horses he has, that they have, runs out of hay and they run out of grain, and you're feeding them hay and grain. Yes, no?
Correct.
Okay. Now a steer enters the picture. You're feeding the steer as well?
Correct.
Why are you feeding the steer?
To fatten it up because we were going to split the steer.
Whose steer is it?
It was Crystal and Jeff's steer.
So why are you fattening up their steer?
So I could get half the beef like we agreed on in the beginning.
Do you have this in writing?
No. But I
What do you have?
have a statement here from one of the other ladies who had the steer and
Yes.
at a ranch that it was like a petting zoo, and she fed it for, I can't remember how long she says on there.
In connection with Paul Downs, hold on.
Fendi.
I am the general leader of Lucky Stars 4-H in Palmyra. Here we go, on and on and on. The chickens stayed, the goats and the chickens.
Your Honor, may I say something, please?
What do you want to tell me as
I
I'm
want to
reading
tell
this
you that
statement?
we just loaned the calf. Was a good calf when he was real little. We supplied the feed for that when the steer was at the 4-H.
Let me see if I
It was a
understand
petting
this.
zoo.
Let me see if and I worked in a dairy when I was a kid, so
Okay.
I kind of get some of this. But the whole idea is you buy a steer, fatten it up, and sell it for slaughter.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So here's the question. Who decides when a steer should be slaughtered? Is there a point in some of these clubs that, a steer reaches a certain weight and then he's primed for slaughter?
Yes, ma'am. 1,800, maybe a year and a half old. You don't want to get over 2 years old. They get tough. They get,
Right,
you know.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So 18 months or whatever.
By the way, what happened to your chin?
I cut my mole this morning while I was shaving.
Now watch
so
him.
it was a
I'm
small
sorry
mole.
about that.
Yes, I'm bleeding
I'm
to death.
glad it's not related to the case.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, all right. So we all agree in this world that the steer reaches a certain age, it's time for slaughter.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, it reached 1,305 pounds, and that's when Crystal agreed that it could go in.
Crystal, did you agree?
I agreed that Paul could take the steer up to Schradel's and have it processed.
Is that slaughter?
Yes.
That's called a euphemism. That means it's a
Okay.
word that sounds better. Okay. All right. So did the steer have a name? Please tell me no, because
Buddy.
I'll feel
Yep.
bad. I'm an animal lover. This kills me. Okay. All right. So Buddy goes into the slaughterhouse, but you did agree that Buddy's going to be slaughtered. That's the whole point
Yes.
of Buddy.
But when you take a steer in, you usually have a list of what you want.
You have to.
And you have to make it. He never got a list from us, what we wanted, how we want it cut. Prime rib,
a
cutlets.
question. It's their steer too. How come you have all the meat from the steer? Tell
Because
me.
I wrote them a letter because Crystal was in Huber at the time. It will take me a
where?
while. She was in Huber dorm from the last cocaine.
Okay.
Or
You know
not
what?
last-
I'm past
the
the
last-
cocaine.
That is.
Don't say a word, Jeffrey.
The last drunk driver and her third drunk driver.
Okay, I don't care what she is. We're talking about Buddy.
I wrote her that letter stating, if you want to read it, that if they didn't pay me, by such a date.
This letter is to inform you of two things. There are three things. If I don't get my money owed to me by the two of you for butchering of beef, I will sell some of the beef to get my money back. As of 10/21, I will no longer be taking care of your horse. Okay. You will not feed my hay or grain to your horses. You know what's yours and what's mine. Okay. All right, Crystal, tell me why you're here.
Well, the reason I'm here is because Paul is suing me for
But you're
this
countersuing
money.
him.
So I'm countersuing. What I am countersuing on is for that steer. And Jeff said it pretty good that steer at the, after being slaughtered and stuff like that, it would be worth about $2,500.
What
And then-
the slaughtered steer in whole, but half of that would be $1,250, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Your half is $1,250.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think
Your
I've got
Honor.
enough. What?
The steer weighed 1,305 pounds, and at that time, the price of live weight was 66 cents a pound.
Where's the receipt for the steer?
I found what they gave me as what the cutting was on it. How
You
much
mean
it
how
was
they
per
cut,
side.
Buddy? How they cut, Buddy?
Yes.
And he was a good steer,
They
Your Honor.
processed him.
I have a pig.
Do you?
Nobody's cutting my pig. Yeah, I had two pigs.
Are they
250
potbelly or
pounds. Potbelly, 250 pounds. Wilbur and Homer.
Wilbur Howard.
Wilbur is 18.
My daughter raises them for 4-H every year.
Yeah, and then what do they do with them?
Slaughter.
Process them.
There he goes back to the euphemisms. Where's the thing for the where's the thing for the
yellow
steer?
the yellow slips are right straight from Schradel's Meat Market, Your Honor.
So you don't think you owe them any of the money from any of the meat from Buddy?
Crystal has got meat from me when she has come over.
Is that right, Crystal?
I got maybe 4 pounds of hamburger and I got 2 rolls.
They are suing you for the slaughtered steer, $2,500. You are suing them for $1,000 for the cost of hay, cost of gas, cost of a loan. What loan?
Okay, while Crystal was in jail on the last drunk drive, and she would get out on Huber, which is work release.
Right.
I would take her back and I would pick her up, take her back and forth to work. If she would need money, I would loan her money. And I charged her $7 each way, I think it was, to take her back and forth to work in the morning and at night.
True.
That's true.
Did you pay him?
Yes.
No.
Cash. In the parking lot at Charlton.
All right, Mike, step up here.
Your Honor.
Mike, look. These two share a daughter in common. All right? I don't want to do anything to jeopardize that. All right? But I do want to be fair here. Did he buy more hay than he needed for his horse?
She had to buy a lot more hay, yes.
Okay, sit down. Here's my verdict. The issue is whether the defendants are liable to the plaintiff for breach of contract. That is, do they owe him money for hay, feed, cost of gas, and all that stuff as it relates to him giving Crystal a ride. And on the other hand, the issue for the court as it relates to the counterclaim is that the defendants are suing the plaintiff for conversion, saying, hey, you took our steer and you had it slaughtered. Buddy, may he rest in peace. And you owe us half of that. Here's what the court thinks. At the end of the day, it seems to me that there was some sort of an agreement as it relates to the slaughter of Buddy. Buddy was raised for the purpose of slaughter. I think that right at most, the defendants, based upon what we know, $914. I'll even give you more than that, $1,000 even. Half of that is $500. I do believe the plaintiff. I do believe that he did spend money for hay and grain. I think that his testimony is credible. I think that it's corroborated. And therefore, the verdict is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,067. However, verdict for the defendant for half of $1,000, $500 for their share of the steer. And let me make something perfectly clear. The next time you do anybody any favors, and I get the horse world, I really do. People are generally good people. They feed other people's animals. They don't think twice about it. They help them out. I mean, it's kind of a different world and you're not used to contracts. Get used to contracts. You have a daughter in common. You know what? Let this one go. Do this.
That's
Let it
what
go.
he tried
Bad
to do.
experience. Stop bad-mouthing her. All right, you have a daughter in common. Take care of her. So be it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.